We also had Kyle Williams' first drop of training camp. So you giveth and you take. Good day yesterday.
The ups and downs of being a rookie.
The dropsies today.
That's all right.
We'll continue to pass along updates from Patriots training camp here today on Jones and Keefe. We're brought to you by McFarland Energy here at Patriots training camp, as is our next guest, Rob Bradford, WEEI, and the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, brought to you by McFarland Energy, the heating, cooling, and bioheat delivery pros that Eastern Mass and all of Cape Cod depend on at McFarlandEnergy.com. Rob Bradford, McFarland to you.
Oh, McFarland, my friends, there is nothing. I need McFarland more than ever, the vibe, because I am taking that 6-hour drive from Philadelphia. I am currently calling you from the Grover Cleveland rest stop, which every time I think of rest stops and Popeye's chicken, I think of Grover Cleveland. So, yeah, what a time to be alive. And by the way, you guys are doing such an outstanding job. Thank you for getting me through this trip.
Yeah.
And I never think of bobbing and weaving your way through observing something that's going on in front of you while doing a show. Like, I remember doing the Red Sox alumni game, and we were doing it from the press box. So we were trying to do the show, and then, wait a second. Julio Lugo just went deep off Pedro Martinez. So, yeah, I feel your pain, yeah.
Those are good updates, Rob. Jones mentioned how Alex Cora in the postgame wasn't in the best mood for a guy that had just won a game. Did you read anything into that?
It's a tough one, and I definitely noticed that after the game. And a lot of times, Cora sort of will zig when everyone thinks he's going to zag when it comes to sort of games like this. Where I think some of the questions were, you have hey, is this the turning point of the season? Which is, Cora's not going to take that bait. I mean, Cora's not going to say that. And also, I think that another thing that Cora isn't a big fan of is that hey, how you hung with the big boys sort of conversation, because I think that he perceives this team as being already with the big boys. I mean, those are just a couple guesses, but the vibe in the manager's office after the game was completely different when we walked out into the clubhouse, and then you had everybody saying this was a definitive game. This was a game that could be the launching point for bigger things, and this felt like a playoff game and everything else like that. But you didn't get that from Cora, no.
Okay, interesting. I'm watching the field here, Rob. As you mentioned, we're kind of juggling stuff, watching training camp. Kyle Williams, not only a drop on the field, Keefe, just dropped a punt as well.
Yeah, all right.
So those hands look a little iffy.
Maybe we don't have him back there for punts.
On day 2, we'll continue to monitor. With the Red Sox last night, I was a little discouraged listening to Sam Kennedy today. I was discouraged by the Jeff Passan report the other day, just the general tone of what the Red Sox may do at the deadline, Rob. Did they do enough to really invest by taking 1 out of 3, avoiding a sweep against the Cubs and Phillies? Have they done enough to truly invest in this team at the deadline, or should we start tempering expectations?
No, I think this has nothing to do with what their plan was. Honestly, they could have lost last night, and I think it would have stayed the same. I think that a lot of people, a lot of reporters are doing everything they can, but there's been a lot of generalities when it comes to, especially with the Red Sox. I'll stay with my tone, which is I think they're more motivated than ever to do something at the deadline, more so certainly than in the last few years, because let's go back to thou who shall not be named, the Devers deal. I mean, when you push your chips to the middle of the table, like Kennedy said back in January. He said going back to January and February and March, the motivation of this organization to be good in 2025. I think this has led them to be more motivated to do something at the deadline, whether they won or not last night. And I think Cora brought up a good point before the game, which was, yeah, listen, you haven't won as many games, but the standings are basically the same. So if the standings are the same, you are right now, as we sit here, a playoff team, then of course you're going to be a buyer. And even if you weren't, even if you were 2 or 3 games out, because of what has happened leading up to this, I do still think that they are going to be aggressive. And now it's going to get uncomfortable, but they are going to be aggressive.
How would you prioritize starting pitcher, relief pitcher, bat?
Starting pitcher, Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing that they think. But like as we said before, let's say last week, good luck with that. This is, the Joe Ryan thing a week ago. Everyone was talking about Joe Ryan, and Joe Ryan was psyched for the trade deadline. Well, I'd be shocked if Joe Ryan get dealt, and that leads you to a bunch of the rentals. And I heard you guys talking about Charlie Morton, and I think Charlie Morton is sort of like a name that is just. I don't think. Put it this way: if they got Charlie Morton, I would have a hard time believing that would be the only pitcher that they've got. So the name that has come up recently that's interesting to me is Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, remember, 2 years ago was the be-all, end-all at the trade deadline. His ERA hasn't been great this year. But if you look at it, it's really been, a four-star stretch that hasn't been good. The last couple have been pretty good. And, and I like Dylan Cease. If you said to me, you got Dylan Cease on a rental, that's an upgrade. That's a guy we all said, you got to get a guy who can pitch in the playoffs. I would have no problem throwing Dylan Cease out in a playoff game. But there's a bunch of guys. There's a long list of these guys. And so I think that starting pitching number one, and then the relief pitching, to help with what is going on in the back of the bullpen is number two.
On Dylan Cease, and Heyman reported that the Yankees, Mets, Cubs, and Red Sox are among the teams believed to be checking in on Dylan Cease. What's he going to cost you? Is that going to cost you Duran?
I don't know if it would cost you Duran, but that would be, to be honest with you, from the Red Sox perspective, for a rental, that would
the Padres
be a lot.
Love Duran. That's the only reason I asked. We know the Padres love Duran.
Yeah. I mean, we all know this, right? And I think maybe that's what they're asking for. But again, you're trading for a rental who has I can say all these nice things about Dylan Cease, and that he writes a mean poem, but it's, but still, he has a 4.5 ERA. And so is that what you want? If you want to upturn the clubhouse for to trade Jarren Duran for that, or can you get another avenue of another rental that's going to cost a little bit less? I don't know, if San Diego's saying, hey, you know what, we're going to get Jarren Duran, for Dylan Cease. All I'm saying is that, for the Red Sox, Dylan Cease makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense for Jarren Duran straight up.
You talk about getting uncomfortable at the trade deadline, and, right now you'd have to, I guess, overpay, right, for somebody like Joe Ryan. But should this team be looking at it a little bit differently, considering so many of their players at the major league level are young and under team control for a long time? This isn't a team that has a bunch of old guys, and then if you trade your minor leaguers, then you're going to be in this weird time for, a few seasons until you build it back up. To me, it seems like a no-brainer to even overpay. I wouldn't say gut the farm system, but damn near close gut the farm system, because most of your starting players are in their 20s.
It's a good point, and I would have no problem trading any minor leaguer in their system right now. None. And we couldn't say that before, right? We couldn't say that about Roman Anthony or Marcelo Meyer, or, back when Christian Campbell was a different player back then. We couldn't say that. But I would have no problem trading in Just Nixon Garcia, or even like a guy, Peyton Tolley, who's a pitcher who they got in last year's draft. I would have no problem with that. And I think that, to your point, is that at some point you do deal these guys to win now. And let's not forget what this season is. I mean, let's not forget that we go back to the comment of Craig Breslow at the Devers deal. We think that we can win more games this year than we could if we kept it status quo. And it had worked out for the large parts throughout the majority of July. But you have to keep that sort of going. You have to understand that this is 2025. This is the opportunity that you have. And, yeah, you have a lot of young players. And, right, so don't worry about it. So trade some of these guys, because you know what? At the end of the day, go down the list of minor leaguers who were traded the last two deadlines. There's not a whole lot to come back to hurt you. It's worth it if you want to make a run at things.
Well, that's certainly how we feel. We endorse that on Jones and Keefe here on WEEI. Rob Bradford joining us from Baseball Isn't Boring and WEEI.com. You can check out his podcast on the Audacy app. What's the latest, I guess I would ask, are there fears about Marcelo Meyer leaving that game early last night? How concerned should we be about that?
I would not have any concern, because this is the same wrist that he injured in 2022. And I know he was downplaying that. He said, I don't even remember what wrist it was. It was so long ago. But, it was the same wrist. He was in I don't even know what you call it, a splint. It wasn't it was just like a splint, which I don't know really how much to read into that. The fact that the plan is to get MRI tells you that it is something. So, yeah. And I think this, guys, is that, when you have Marcelo Meyer go down, and I know that he hasn't played a lot against lefties and everything else, but he has proven himself to be a part of the solution here. Like defensively at second base and filling in at third base while Bregman comes back, he is part of the solution. And if you don't have him, then I think what you have to do is move Rafaela back in the infield a whole lot more. I think it weakens the team. So I wouldn't be surprised for him to go on the injured list. But I think it would be a big, big hit if they lose him for any extended period of time.
Okay, he is Rob Bradford. You can check out all the latest on Twitter at Bradfo. You can listen to him again on the Audacy app. Baseball Isn't Boring, AUDACY. Get it on your phone, free, easy. Take it with you wherever you go. You can also check that out on the iHeartRadio and TuneIn apps as well. Bradfo, excellent stuff as always. We'll talk to you, I guess, on deadline day next week, huh? A week from today.
Ooh, yeah. How about that?
Okay, good timing.
Yeah,
you can break news. You can break news right here on Jones and Keefe next week.
Oh, listen, I have a bunch of news which I want to break right now. I'm going to make it save it for next show.
Good idea. Yeah. Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week. Bradfo, thank you as always. Excellent stuff.
See you guys.
All right, Rob Bradford joining us here on Jones and Keefe.